So we, as a region, pride ourselves on having one of the most robust transit networks in the United States. This graph shows the relatively steep decline in bus boardings over this time period. So in 1991, the average resident boarded a bus 56 times a year. Today, it's closer to 40 times per year. Over that same time period, BART and some of the other rail modes have grown quite a bit. It's important for us to remember also what's happening in San Francisco. Muni is 45% of all regional transit trips. So when Muni experiences growth, the region experiences growth in transit ridership. And in the case of what we've seen over the last 2 decades, with Muni's ridership stagnant or slightly declining, that has affected our regional results as well. When we look at the operators, Muni is almost half of all trips, BART another quarter, AC Transit just over 10%. So when we talk about these 3 major operators, those represent 4 out of 5 transit trips taken in the region. So we have over 24 operators, but 3 of them account for the vast majority of boardings. This chart shows the daily transit boardings by operator. What you can see here is Muni, again, the largest of the operators, experiencing relative stagnation and slight decline from 1991 levels. BART has grown quite significantly, as we can all tell when we board a crowded BART train in the morning. When we adjust it for population, that's where it starts to get even more interesting. San Francisco residents are the most transit dependent of any in the region, and you can see that here in this chart. At the same time, though, the city of San Francisco has grown in population as that Muni ridership has not been growing, and so the average San Franciscan is less dependent on Muni than they were back in 1991 in bicycling of any of the counties in the region. And perhaps that's partly due to the fact that Muni buses are just so crowded, they're choosing to get off the bus, walk, or bicycle more. So when we look at the boardings for each of these operators and we adjust them for population, what we can see is 2 of those 7 major operators in the region, namely Caltrain and BART, have experienced growth faster than the rate of population in their service area. The other operators, including Muni, have seen declines on a population-adjusted basis. Some of the suburban operators like AC Transit, VTA, Golden Gate, and Samtrans have seen ridership declines up to 40% over this 2-decade time period when we adjust for populations. In some ways, it could also be viewed as the flip side of the coin of the growth in BART. Some of these folks who would have been taking AC Transit are now taking BART more, or perhaps they used to live in Oakland and were using AC Transit, but now have moved to Dublin and use BART as their commuting mode. So it's really just a shift in the type of transit that they're taking. So we, as a region, pride ourselves on having one of the most robust transit networks in the United States. And when we compare ourselves to other metro areas, we perform quite well. Out of these 10 major metros, we have the 4th highest level of transit boardings adjusted for that population. And our ridership levels are significantly higher than places like Dallas or Houston, where transit remains a relatively niche mode. The challenge, though, for our region is making sure that we're growing our transit system and our ridership. Over the last 2 decades, we actually have experienced one of the higher levels of decline in population-adjusted boardings. So other than Atlanta, Houston, and Dallas, places not well known for their robust transit networks, we have experienced the most significant decline of any of these 10 metros. Places like New York, Miami, and Los Angeles have seen pretty significant growth over the same time period. So perhaps we can learn from them and as we try to spur additional transit ridership growth over the next several decades.